When you think about naval history, it's still kind of amazing how fast things changed. Those massive dreadnoughts, symbols of power, suddenly becoming, well, almost obsolete.
It's a striking image, isn't it? The dawn of air power, just completely rewriting the rules, naval battles fought over the horizon, sometimes ships never even seeing each other.
Exactly. And that really sets the scene for what we're diving into today, the Battle of Midway, a moment that truly reshaped naval combat.
Absolutely pivotal. And the sources we've looked at paint this incredible picture. It's a mix of, brilliant strategy, crucial intelligence work, and these just unbelievable twists of fate all coming together.
Right. So our mission here is to unpack how this one battle shifted the whole balance of power in the Pacific and why it's still such a vital case study. We're talking innovation, intelligence, the works.
And you can't talk about Midway without talking about Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, a key figure for Japan. Really brilliant, very forward-thinking.
He had quite the background, didn't he? Japanese Naval War College, but also time in the U.S., Harvard Naval Attaché in D.C.
That's right. And that time in America gave him this unique perspective. He understood American potential, its industrial power.
Which is why, when he got back to Japan in the late 20s, he had this key insight: carriers. Aircraft carriers were the future, not battleships.
He was convinced, so much so that he pushed for and started Japan's carrier development program through the 1930s.
It's fascinating, though, that his understanding of America initially made him against war with the U.S. He saw the risks.
He did. He knew what they were up against, but, once the decision was made politically, he shifted. His focus became ensuring Japan could win decisively, quickly.
And he looked for inspiration. Like the British raid.
Exactly. The British attack on the Italian fleet at Taranto in 1940, carrier planes sinking battleships at anchor. That showed him the potential, the blueprint, perhaps.
So Pearl Harbor was his attempt to replicate that on a much grander scale. Take out the U.S. Pacific Fleet, especially its carriers. December 7th, 1941.
Correct. But crucially, as the sources point out, the American carriers weren't there. They couldn't find them. A major objective left unfulfilled.
Still, Pearl Harbor itself marked this huge shift. The battleship era, essentially over. Airplanes were the new dominant weapon. Naval warfare transformed.
Instantly. President Roosevelt declared war the next day, December 8th, and with the U.S. Pacific Fleet badly damaged, it took about 6 months for them to really recover. Japan moved fast.
Hong Kong, Malaya, the Philippines, all fell before 1941 was even over, taking advantage of that window.
They really did. And the British reaction, interestingly enough, was almost relief.
Yeah, pleased. The U.S. was finally in the war. And even more so when Hitler declared war on America, too. A powerful new ally joining the fight.
And America's response: total mobilization. Within 6 months, the Navy was healing, industry was ramping up, ready for a long, hard war against both Japan and Germany.
So the U.S. now faced this enormous task, regaining lost ground in the Pacific. While Japan, they were committed, sources call it an irreversible path, no turning back on dominating the Pacific.
And the key to that dominance, for both sides, came down to one thing: aircraft carriers. They were everything now.
What made the loss of the USS Lexington, America's largest carrier, during the fighting around the Philippines, such a blow? That left the U.S. with only 3 carriers in the Pacific.
Just 3. And Yamamoto knew this. This vulnerability became the core of his next big plan, the Midway trap.
He wanted to lure those last 3 American carriers out, use Japan's superior numbers at that point to finish them off.
Yamamoto liked these big, complex operations. Ambitious, he assembled a huge armada, transport ships with thousands of soldiers for the invasion, and the main punch: 4 large, experienced aircraft carriers under Admiral Nagumo.
And the bait was Midway Island, a small strategic outpost, America's last defense before Pearl Harbor, really.
That was the key. The plan looked straightforward, almost elegant on paper. First, invade and bomb Midway. Yamamoto was certain this would force the American carriers out from Pearl Harbor to defend it.
And once they were drawn out,
Nagumo's carrier planes would attack and sink them, deprive the U.S. of its carrier fleet, cripple their ability to project power in the Pacific. It seemed, well, flawless.
High stakes indeed. But the flaw was something Yamamoto couldn't see. American intelligence was already onto them.
Initially, no, the Americans were in the dark. But then came Captain Joseph Rochefort, head of Station Hypo, the crypto unit in Hawaii.
An interesting figure. Lived in Japan, spoke Japanese fluently, understood the culture, gave him an edge.
A huge edge. He noticed this recurring code group in Japanese naval messages. AF. Just those two letters popping up consistently.
And he deduced.
Yeah.
F meant Midway.
He became convinced, but his superiors were skeptical. Midway seemed too small, too insignificant for such a massive Japanese operation. They thought the target had to be somewhere else, maybe Hawaii again, or the West Coast.
But Rochefort persisted. He got his concerns to Admiral Chester Nimitz, the top U.S. Navy commander in the Pacific.
Nimitz listened, but he needed proof, concrete evidence before committing his precious few carriers. So Rochefort cooked up a plan.
The water shortage ploy, right?
Exactly. He had Midway send out a fake message in the clear, unencrypted, saying their freshwater distillation plant was broken, a believable problem for a remote island.
And they waited to see if the Japanese took it about.
And they did. Shortly after, U.S. code breakers intercepted a Japanese encrypted message. And when deciphered, it reported that AF was short of fresh water.
That was it. Confirmation. AF was Midway. Nimitz now knew.
Nimitz didn't hesitate. He immediately ordered the fleet to Midway, not just to defend it, but to spring a counter-trap.
He heavily reinforced Midway itself, sent B-17 Flying Fortress bombers there. Their mission? Think Japanese carriers.
And crucially, he positioned his three carriers, Hornet, Enterprise, and the recently repaired Yorktown, about 600 kilometers northeast of Midway. Hidden, waiting.
So the stage was set. The U.S. Pacific Fleet, 3 carriers, about 233 planes, the Japanese main force, 4 carriers, 248 planes. Numbers slightly favoring Japan, but the U.S. had the element of surprise.
So, morning of June 4th, 1942, the Japanese, completely unaware the American carriers are nearby, launched their first wave. 108 planes hit Midway.
American planes from Midway rose to meet them.
But they were mostly older types. Brewster Buffaloes, Vindicators. They were brave, but outmatched by the Japanese Zeros. Faster, more maneuverable. Many were shot down, and the airfield at Midway got bombed.
Meanwhile, both sides sent out scout planes, trying to find the enemy carriers. That's critical now.
Absolutely. And here's where fate, or maybe just mechanical failure, intervened. One of the Japanese scout planes, launched from the cruiser Tone, had a catapult problem.
Delayed its launch.
By half an hour, a critical half hour, because that specific plane was assigned the search sector where the American carriers happened to be hiding.
Wow. Okay, so while that delayed plane is still on its way, the Americans get lucky.
Well, American scout planes did find parts of the Japanese fleet. Admiral Fletcher, the U.S. commander on site, got reports locating at least 2 Japanese carriers.
So he launched his planes. Hornet and Enterprise sent off about 116 aircraft, dive bombers, torpedo planes.
Yes, but the launch and attack coordination was, well, it was a mess. American doctrine at the time wasn't great for coordinating large strikes from multiple carriers. Squadrons got separated.
Attacking piecemeal?
Pretty much. Different altitudes, different times. One whole group of dive bombers from Hornet actually got lost. Bad navigation. Flew off in completely the wrong direction.
So initial American efforts weren't going well. What about the bombers from Midway itself?
They found the Japanese carriers, but the first waves, torpedo bombers mostly, were slaughtered. They came in low and slow. Experienced Japanese fighter pilots and anti-aircraft fire just tore them apart. 18 shot down out of one group of 37. The others had to drop early. No hits.
And the high-altitude B-17s.
Also no hits. Bombing moving ships from high altitude was extremely difficult back then, so the initial American attacks had failed. Miserably, really.
Okay, so back on the Japanese flagship, Admiral Nagumo. He sees the attack on Midway, didn't fully neutralize it. What does he do?
This is a crucial moment. Yamamoto's orders were clear. Keep half your strike planes armed with torpedoes and armor-piercing bombs ready for enemy ships, just in case.
But Nagumo
hesitated, then decided he needed a second strike on Midway to finish the job. He ordered the planes that were being held back, the ones armed for ships, to be rearmed with land bombs for another attack on the island.
Rearming takes time. It means decks are cluttered with bombs, torpedoes, fuel lines.
Exactly. A very vulnerable moment. And it was right then, in the middle of this dangerous rearming process, that the delayed scout plane from the Tone finally reported.
What did he report?
It had found American ships. Initially just cruisers and destroyers, but then, a clarification, one ship appeared to be an aircraft carrier.
Oh boy, the timing. Nagumo's caught completely wrong-footed.
Completely. He just ordered the switch to land bombs. Now he knows American carriers are out there. Chaos on the flight decks. Do they switch back again? And just as they're grappling with this,
The American carrier planes arrive.
yes, about 100 aircraft from Hornet, Enterprise, and Yorktown, having finally found the Japanese carriers, started their attacks. Still somewhat uncoordinated, waves of torpedo planes coming in low, dive bombers trying to approach high.
And the Japanese defenses.
Still effective. The Zero fighters were doing incredible work, shooting down dozens of attackers. The torpedo planes especially suffered horrific losses. It looked like maybe, just maybe, the Japanese might weather the storm. No fatal hits yet.
But then came that twist, the Lost Squadron.
That group of American dive bombers from the Enterprise, led by Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey. They'd gotten lost earlier, searched fruitlessly, running low on fuel. They were about to give up and head back.
And just by chance.
Just by sheer chance, McCluskey spotted the wake of a lone Japanese destroyer heading northeast at high speed. He reasoned it must be heading back to its main fleet. He decided to follow it.
And it led him right to them.
Led him right to Nagumo's carriers. And he arrived at the precise moment, the absolute perfect moment, when most of the Japanese fighter planes were down low, dealing with the American torpedo bombers that had just attacked.
Leaving the skies high above relatively clear.
Exactly. McCluskey and his bombers dove down. At the same time, dive bombers from the Yorktown also arrived from a different direction. The Japanese carriers Akagi, Kaga, Soryu were caught completely exposed, decks full of fueled and armed planes, bombs lying around from the rearming confusion.
And the result?
Devastation. In the space of about 4 minutes, maybe 5, bombs rained down. Akagi hit. Kage hit multiple times. Soryu hit. Secondary explosions ripped through them as bombs and fuel ignited. Within minutes, 3 of Japan's finest aircraft carriers were blazing wrecks, irreparably damaged.
4 minutes. Unbelievable. That just changed everything.
Utterly. Japan still had one carrier left, the Hiryu. Its planes managed to launch a counterattack and found the American carrier Yorktown.
And they hit Yorktown.
They did. 3 direct hits from dive bombers. The damage was severe. Later, Japanese torpedoes finished her off. Yorktown eventually sank.
So the U.S. lost a carrier too, but the overall result
Was crystal clear. The Japanese were beaten. Their main carrier force was shattered. American planes then found and attacked the last remaining Japanese carrier, Hiryu. 4 bomb hits. It too was engulfed in flames and later scuttled.
So by the end of the day, the battle was essentially over, a decisive American victory.
Without a doubt, Midway was the turning point of the Pacific War. Literally those 4 or 5 minutes of dive bombing completely flipped the balance of power.
Before Midway, Japan had carrier superiority. After Midway,
Japan lost 4 of its best carriers, irreplaceable veterans. America lost 1, the Yorktown. The numbers immediately shifted.
And crucially, America's industrial capacity could replace losses far faster than Japan's.
Precisely. The U.S. started churning out Essex-class carriers. Japan simply couldn't keep up. The material advantage swung decisively to the United States.
It also marked a complete reversal of roles, didn't it?
Absolutely. Before Midway, Japan was constantly on the offensive, winning victory after victory. After Midway, Japan was forced onto the defensive, trying to hold on to a shrinking empire, while the U.S. attacked relentlessly for the rest of the war.
So looking back at this deep dive, what are the big takeaways for you?
Well, several things stand out. Yamamoto's strategic foresight, even if flawed in execution. The immense power of intelligence Rushfort's code breaking was absolutely critical. The huge impact of seemingly small things like that half-hour delay on the scout plane.
In those 4 minutes, the concentration of force almost accidental at the decisive point.
Exactly. It really underscores how being well-informed, understanding the changing landscape, whether it's technology and warfare or, challenges we face today, is just crucial. Think about Yamamoto originally arguing against the war because he understood U.S. industrial might. That's a powerful lesson in risk assessment.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How these small events, uncoordinated actions, even mistakes or pure chance, can converge at just the right moment to completely change history. It leads to that provocative thought. How many other pivotal 4-minute moments might be hidden in history? Moments where everything changed that we just haven't fully recognized yet.